Hi everyone. So this is Vibhor and I'm from MindMajix, and today we are going to discuss about the interview questions which might be asked during an Okta interview. So these interview questions are basically going to have to help both the freshers as well as the experienced professionals. So one of the very first questions which might be asked to you guys in an interview is like, what is an Okta? So, Okta is basically a service used for the identity management and the access management by which we can access any employer to any application on any device. It runs on a secure platform, uses cloud software which helps organizations in managing and securing user authentications into applications. There are various services which include single sign-on, and it's one of the best application which gains its unique position with the special quality of allowing the user to log into different applications with a single centralized process. It helps to it's basically coming up with the various features like single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, API products, lifecycle management, and universal directory. So basically it helps you to achieve both the identity and access management part, and more of like Okta is more of an access management tool, but it helps you to achieve the complete IAM product. So that's what Okta is all about. Next, you might be asked, why Okta is in demand, or why Okta is so popular, or why Okta is leading the market right now. So one of the very first reasons you have to, keep in mind is like all the cloud technologies, or all the technologies which are on the SaaS platform, they are doing well in the market, and Okta is, again, one of the cloud technologies which is leading the market in access management domain. And why is it in demand is because once you start working with Okta, you start understanding the ease of Okta. Like for example, if I have to give an example why why I say that. So for example, you want to integrate an application and you have got Okta as well as other IAM products which helps you to do the same thing. Like you want to integrate an OIDC application using Okta, or you want to integrate an OIDC application using some other IAM product apart from Okta. So the time in which you can actually integrate an application in Okta is very much lesser when compared to when you have to do it with other products. So, and the complexity and the ease which Okta comes up with, like they have their own OIN network which actually has an integration with more than 7,000 applications. I mean the 7,000 standard applications, and if so with those applications, you can directly Okta has created APIs with those applications, so you don't have to work much with those applications. So that's why the time in which you can achieve an integration with Okta is very much less when compared to the time which you have to give when you're integrating it with some other IAM product. And the like I just gave an example of integration, but there are other services as well which Okta comes up with, and you'll find that Okta helps you to achieve, or it's very easy to write policies, integrate application, maybe do MFA, or maybe manage the users in Okta when compared to other IAM products. So that's why it's kind of leading the market. It helps the organization to construct the customer oriented experiences, and it helps to construct and modernize the IT. So yeah, that's pretty much it why Okta is in demand. Next, we have some of the, you might be asked some some basic questions on Okta, which is like maybe you have to name some different Okta products or Okta features. So basically the different products provided by Okta are single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, lifecycle management, API products, universal directory. Also, Okta comes up with Okta Access Gateways, which actually allows you, or helps you to to connect your applications, or to give single sign-on to your application to the on-premise applications. So Okta comes up with OAG in that sense. Although OAG is altogether a different product of Okta, but Okta, like is having now there are different products, or one is our Okta Identity Lifecycle, or Okta Identity Engine, that's currently in the beta version. It's going to be released soon. Then you have Okta Okta Access Gateways, and then you have the main Okta product, which is which helps you to provide that single sign-on, lifecycle management, universal directory, MFA, and API products. Now talking about the next thing, because like if you are being interviewed on Okta, definitely people are going to ask you what is single sign-on, and what are the benefits of using the single sign-on. So single sign-on, as the name suggests, like you just have to sign on once, and then you will be able to access to all the applications once you have the session created with the browser or with Okta. So what I mean by that is, like you need to have a session with Okta, or you just need to log into Okta once. Over there, you will see that you have all the applications in a centralized manner, and you can, whatever applications are being integrated with Okta, you'll be able to see it in the dashboard. And once you click on those applications, you don't have to enter your credentials again and again. You just would be going to the application directly, because those applications are either being integrated through SAML or OIDC with Okta. So now the first credentials, the first time when you use the credentials to get into the Okta, those credentials are going to be those credentials are going to actually create a session with the browser. And once the session is created, you don't have to log in again and again to various applications. So for example, you might be working in an organization, or you might not be working, but still think of a scenario that there are certain applications which you maybe have to access every day, and there could be different passwords or username and passwords for each of the applications. So you have to log into your attendance maybe every day. You maybe have to log into your email Outlook accounts every day. You maybe have to log into maybe some finance application or time sheets every day. Now every application, if in case they do not have the single sign-on feature available, will have a different username and password. And that means, like more username and passwords we have to remember if in case we do not have single sign-on into existence. So now what happens is, like, first of all of these applications which will be single sign-on integrated would be present in Okta's dashboard. So this acts as kind of a centralized manner in which you can get all the applications at one place. And once you get all the applications at one place, now you don't have to remember the password or username for each of the applications, because they have been integrated using either SAML or OIDC, or maybe secure web authentication in Okta's case. So you can just directly log into the application. So just log in once, and then you can just go to or log into any application to enter the credentials again and again. So that's like the major advantage of using single sign-on. Plus, it doesn't compromise with the security feature. So any application which allows to achieve the federation, or which is which allows federation to happen, that's like the single sign-on comes into existence. You can either go for SAML or OIDC based on the requirement of the application, but that's probably it. When compared to SAML and OIDC, secure web authentication is not that that secure. It's kind of a workaround where federation is not possible. But yeah, I mean, like over there as well, Okta actually go ahead and encrypts the data. Having a very strong algorithm to decrypt it. But still, like if you don't want to share your credentials with Okta's browser plugin, at least once as well, then if federation is possible with any of the application, so that's the most recommended approach. So that's what single sign-on is all about. You just have to log in once, and you'll be able to you'll be able to log into different applications without having to enter your credentials again and again. Then if you define multi-factor authentication, so basically multi-factor authentication provides different ways to implement various factors of authentications across usability and assurance level. So it's just adding a one more layer of security on top of your one factor authentication. The reason being because if hackers in the market they are trying to get into your account, or they are trying to breach your account. So in that scenario, they might be able to crack one of your credentials. Like they might be able to crack your password using brute force attack. But now if they want to get into the system, they'll have to crack the another factor as well, which is the multi-factor. So it's kind of just adding a layer of security on top of the security layer. So it's difficult for the hackers to get into your account finally. So there could be different multi-factors. One could be based on your knowledge. It depends on what you know. Then it could be something on your possession, like your phone, or like something you have. and then something on the biometric, like something the user possesses. So something like your retina display or your fingerprints, these all come under biometrics. Possession could be something like you have maybe something with an Okta verify push or something like you basically know, or a security question. And like, sorry, security question would actually come under the knowledge one. So like if you have something, a user is having a knowledge on something, so something that is coming under knowledge, something you possess or something you have that is coming under possession, and something, it depends on the user, so that comes under biometric. So these could be the different multi-factors authentication which the user could come up with while setting up their MFA. Now, if I have to mention few of the benefits of the Okta Universal Directory, so people tend to ask in an interview that what is an Okta Universal Directory, or why does Okta has its own Universal Directory, and then what are the benefits of using an Okta Universal Directory. So it's basically a centralized place for managing all the users and groups and devices from any resource or a source, and it has a few benefits. So basically, if you go to Okta and go to Okta Universal Directory, so over there you'll find Okta could be integrated with multiple applications. It could be integrated with Active Directory. It could be integrated with LDAP. It could be integrated with different downstream applications like Workday or Salesforce, any other application. So now what happens is, like, whatever are the users we have for all these applications, be it coming from Active Directory, be it coming from LDAP directly, or users created within the Okta, or there could be some application users. So all of these users are going to be managed in a single place. We don't have to worry about like, okay, some users are coming from Active Directory, so we have to manage the users in AD. Then some users are coming from LDAP, we have to manage them in LDAP, and then some of the users are coming on from Okta, then that would be its own directory. So basically, it helps you to centralize all the users, all the it helps you to manage all the users and groups and devices on a single source from any source. So basically, the benefits are, it provides a group-based password policy. So whatever users are present in Okta now, so you can directly apply policies on those users. You don't have to for example, users coming from AD. If in case they are not in Okta's Universal Directory, you cannot apply group-based password policies, right? So now all the users are there in Okta. So whatever features are there, which Okta provides on password policies, MFA policies, authentication policies, integration, all of those can be applied to all the users. So basically, that's what the major benefit of Okta is Universal Directory is all about. All the users and the passwords are stored securely in it, and it has the option of complexity for password policy, and it supports all the SAML and OIDC integration. So that's some of the benefits we have for the Okta Universal Directory. Next, some you might be asked that people have this curiosity in mind, like is the admin of Okta able to see the password of any user? So that's not true. Like passwords are not visible to anyone. I can just go to the Okta and actually show you, like how the Okta looks like. So this is basically my Okta, and I am a super admin over here in my tenant. And if I go to the administrator, so I can actually go ahead and see that. I myself is a super admin over here. If I just request a report, so okay, yeah. So over here you'll see that my name is there as a super administrator. So I am a super administrator over here. Now if I have to go ahead and see a password for any of the user. So like I have all these users in my tenant, but if I just want to go to this particular user and sorry, and check the password of this user, so under profile I won't have anything with regards to the password. I'll have all the other attributes of this user. I can go ahead and maybe edit this any other attribute, but over here you will not see any attribute with regards to password. So as a super admin, which is like having the highest privileges in Okta, I still cannot view any of the password for any of the users. So that's the a very good security feature. I mean, like, it's obviously a security breach if anyone can see anyone's password. So obviously that That cannot be done in Okta, and that should not be done with any other IAM product as well, and that is also not happening with Okta. I would say it that way. So yeah, now next, we were talking about single sign-on, right? So people might ask you, what is SAML now? Basically, one of the very important question that that is being asked in interviews, that what is SAML? So basically, SAML is your security assertion markup language. That's the full form of SAML, security assertion markup language. And it's again an open standard for issuing authorization and authentication for different providers. So SAML is basically an authentication protocol. Like, there are different single sign-on protocols. One is SAML, one is OIDC, and then you have OAuth. So SAML is your, authentication protocol. Again, authorization protocol. OAuth 2.0 is your authorization protocol, and OIDC is kind of, it's basically an authentication protocol, but it can help you to achieve both, authentication as well as authorization. So coming back to the SAML topic, so basically it's an open standard, or it's an authentication protocol. So it helps the user to authenticate to any application or to any resource which the user wants access to. So the authentication part has been taken care by the SAML protocol, and the way it works is like, if I just have to show you, just to open a flow for the SAML. So basically, this is how my SAML flow looks like. Over here, I have an identity provider and I have a service provider, and this is the end user who is trying to authenticate to the to get into the application. So basically, the identity provider is that source which is actually having the information about the user. So while working with Okta, 90% of the times, or 95% of the times, I would say, Okta would be acting as your identity provider, and then there would be different applications, within your Okta, with which, you will be actually working with. So, those applications would be your applications integrated with Okta using SAML or OIDC. So since we are talking about SAML, so like, let's talk with regards to Okta, keeping Okta in mind. So, this identity provider is something which is going to be your Okta. So Okta would act as your identity provider, and then you would be acting as the end user over here, and then you'll have the service provider. So what will happen is, like, there could be couple of flows in the SAML. One could be the end user trying to get into the application, because eventually if I have to explain it to you with an example. So basically it says, like, you guys might be using Zomato, and the way to, or like, you eventually want to use the services of Zomato, but you are using either Google or any other social login to get into the Zomato application. Basically, what I was giving an example was that, if in case you want to leverage the services of Zomato, and you are either using a Google or a Facebook or any other social login platform to get into your Zomato. You don't want to create or an account with Zomato, so you get an option, okay, log in with Zomato, or log in with Google, or log in with Facebook, or any other social login. So now what will happen is, maybe you'll log in with Google, and you are eventually going to be authenticated by Google, and finally you are going to leverage the services of Zomato. So that's exactly what SAML is all about. I'm just giving an example of Google. Google mostly uses OIDC, to authenticate and stuff like that. But, like, in our case, we are going to use authentication. Okta as the identity provider, and service provider could be any application, be it your Salesforce, Workday, or any other application. So eventually, what is going to happen is that you are going to be the end user. You'll probably request access from the browser to access the service provider, that is the application. Now, if you're directly going to the application first, that becomes your service provider initiated flow. Now you'll go to the application. Application will redirect the SAML request back to the browser, and from the browser you are going to be requested back to the identity provider, because that's where SP and IDP, like, if that integration has happened, so there is a trust between these two parties, and it will redirect you back to the identity provider. Now, if you would have directly come to the identity provider at first go, like, instead of you as in the end user going to the service provider, if you would have directly come to the identity provider, then it would have been your IDP initiated flow. So now it says like your identity provider is going to authenticate the user. Once the user is authenticated, IDP, that is Okta, is going to send a SAML assertion back to the browser, and from there it will go back to the service provider. And your service provider is going, if the user is authenticated, your service provider is going to send a security context to the browser, and then it's going to again request the resource from the service provider, and finally the user would be able to leverage the service of the application. So that's basically what SAML is all about. It's you can either achieve SAML using an identity provider IDP initiated flow, or using an SP initiated flow. So that's what SAML is all about. Then why to use SAML? SAML again has many benefits for the individual users, and it also for the identity providers and the service provider. It saves time from the administrative tasks like password resets, etc. It's very good in achieving security, and it's also increases the users by reducing barriers to entry. So that's why we should use SAML. It's a good authentication protocol. Security wise, it's completely safe, and it helps you to achieve the single sign-on feature. So that's why, and it's also easy to achieve when compared to the OIDC integration. So that's why, if your application is feasible to support SAML, then definitely we should go ahead with the SAML approach. Then how SAML works is something we have just discussed. So basically, there's going to be an identity provider and a service provider. Your IDP is always going to authenticate, and the service provider is going to be the one which, on the basis of your IDP has authenticated or not, is going to allow you to use the services of your application. So that's how SAML works. Now, if I want to explain you the difference between a SCIM connector and a SCIM server. So SCIM is basically a system for cross-domain identity management. It is used to connect Okta to on-premise applications. Okta and on-premise applications communicate via Okta provisioning agent, and a SCIM server or a provisioning connector constructed with the help of a provisioning connector SDK. So basically, that's the difference between a SCIM connector and a SCIM server. Now, next question could be, or there could be some scenario-based questions being asked to you, just to check the knowledge, because whatever we have discussed till now, that's mostly theoretical. So even if someone hasn't worked with Okta, they still can know, okay, what is Okta, how does SAML work, what is SAML, what is single sign-on. But from an interview perspective, they might be interested to know if you have actually worked with Okta, or you are just pretending that you have worked with Okta. So they might be asking some of the tool-based direct questions. So they could ask like, how can we set up to send an email notification to users upon joining? So there is actually a checkbox which needs to be unchecked when a welcome email, to send a welcome email to any of the user. So if you go to the Okta admin console, you go to the directory, and then finally it's a directory integrations. Under AD, you have a settings which says that do not send a new user activation emails for this domain, and you just have to uncheck one checkbox. You just need to uncheck that one, and so it will start sending the email to the users when they will be joining the organization. So basically, what I'm saying is that. If I just have to show you, I don't have the AD integrated on my environment, so basically you won't be able to see that thing. But yeah, so if I what I'm saying is, you go to the directory, you go to the directory integrations. If you have an active directory integrated, you will be able to see something like, currently you see LDAP interface, you'll be able to see something like AD over here. You go to the AD, and then under AD you'll have one of the settings named as do not send activation emails to the new user, and you just have to uncheck that box, and it will start sending emails. Then how long an SMS is valid for MFA? So it's valid for 5 minutes. So whenever you get an SMS from Okta for your MFA on your phone, so it's valid for 5 minutes, and it can be edited. So we cannot modify the time. That's not possible. That is something, the configuration setting being set by Okta. So we do not have the privileges to edit the SMS OTP time. Is there any way to remove the remembered device or account so that it will reprompt for MFA? Yes, it's possible to forget a remembered decision or an account. So if I again have to show you that thing, so I'll probably go to the application. Now if I go to the Okta, and you want to, I already have an MFA set up for myself. And if I want to actually reset something, so I have the option to reset the multi-factor authentication. So right now, this particular user has actually, set up couple of MFAs in the environment. One is Okta Verify, one is email authentication. So I can just go ahead and reset the selected factors. So now next time, whenever the user is going to log in, she will be prompted to set up the MFA again. So whatever MFA she has already set up with her previous devices or account, that would have been gone now, and she would have to reset. So now if I click over here, is so it says like no factors are currently set up for this user. So that's how users can reset the MFA factors. Next is, can we enter multiple mobile numbers in Okta MFA? So that's not possible. We can just have a single mobile number uh, set up as MFA. If you want to change your mobile number, in that scenario, you'll have to do the exact steps. Your Okta admin has to do the exact steps, and the Okta, once that is done, you have to reset. And while resetting, under the email, under the OTP or the SMS option, you can go ahead and add your other number or new number, but we cannot have multiple mobile numbers supported for MFA. And the reason why we do not have this, because Okta doesn't actually know that it's the right we can have multiple numbers. So what happens is, like, Okta doesn't know if you are the right person to actually go ahead and making that request, or if is it the hacker. So there could be multiple mobile numbers against each of the user, and there could, and OTP or SMS is something which should not be shared with anyone. So same OTP going to multiple numbers doesn't make sense when when you think from the security point of view. So that's why Okta doesn't allow that feature. Then how to add users in bulk in Okta? So maybe if we have to discuss on how do we show users in bulk in Okta. So over here, if you go to the people, you have options. You just go to directory in people, you have options to add more people and then import users from CSV. One of the thing is, like, you need to get the template first. So first you'll download the template. Once the template is downloaded, you will be able to see that what template is being downloaded with all the required attributes or the optional attributes which you have in Okta. And once actually download the template, at that point of time you just have to request the, add all the users which you have in the CSV file, and finally upload the CSV file from here. Once uploaded, it will add all the bulk users directly. So that's how we do the bulk users. It can be done through CSV, or it can be done through an API also using Postman. So we can use any of the any of the Okta features to add bulk users in Okta. Can we give priority to password policies? So yes, Okta Universal Directories provides group password policies, where any policy having higher priority over others will take precedence. So if I again go back to my environment, and password policies is somewhere I'll see over here. So if I go to the authentication and password, so you say that you can add a policy, and then you see 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So this is where I can give priority to the policy. So I can write any policy, and then I can just drag up to if I want to change the priority, so it changes the priority. And if I want to maybe change some other priority, I can do that. For the default policy, I cannot make any changes. I can only make or adjust the precedence of the policies which I have created. There is a default policy already created. I cannot go ahead and change that one. So that's different. Then, can the users be notified if their passwords will be expiring soon? So yes, we can do that. Again, if I go back to the environment over here, there is a default policy, and over here you will see that prompt the user 5 days before the password expires. So I can go ahead and edit this one. or just I can change this one maybe 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, whenever I feel that user should be prompted, and I can just update the policy. So now for whichever user in my environment, I have a password which will be expired within the next 4 days. The emails will be triggered to that to that user, suggesting that your password is going to be expired. So we can achieve that feature. Now, other question which might be asked is, can we set up MFA when the user changes the password? So MFA is only applicable to the user logins. So there is no option that that can prompt MFA while the user is changing the password. Then is it possible to change the MFA prompt text? No, that's not possible. We cannot support, or we Okta doesn't support the changing of the MFA prompt text as of now. Then is there any way to download all the users or group from Okta? Yes, there is a way to actually go ahead and download all the groups in Okta. So there is a very a very interesting extension which we have in for Okta product, which is named as Rockstar. So if you want to download, you can directly go to Okta Rockstar, and you can type this thing directly on your browsers, and you can just add it to your extension. I mean, you can just add this under your extension. I already have it added, so I just don't want to remove, but you can have it added. And once you have it added, you'll have this, whatever page you'll open, you'll see that this Rockstar pop-up will come. Now if I go to people, and if I want to export all my users, so I can just write export all users, and whatever types of, you can have a query filter. If you don't want any query filter, you want all the users, you can do that. Whatever attributes you are looking forward to those users, you can select them and then finally export. So eventually you'll get a CSV file where all the users would be exported. So I have 18 users in my environment, so all 18 got exported. Same goes for the groups. If you go to the groups and export the group, even you can export the group rules, you can export the groups, you can export the application. So whatever you have it, you can export it directly from Okta. So it's a very useful extension, and it solely works on the Okta APIs which we have. So basically it makes use of the Okta APIs to help you with the data. Then if multi-factors are configured for Okta MFA for any user, which one will be considered? In case of multiple factors for Okta, users will get a chance to choose the factor they wish to use, and admins can restrict easy factors by creating policy. So if there are multiple factors being created in Okta, or which Okta, like we just saw that one of the user had like multiple MFA factors configured. So in those scenarios, like maybe we can check for this user. So yeah, okay, but this user just has one. So there could be a possibility that a user has actually gone ahead and configured multiple factors. So in those scenarios, we as an Okta admin can go ahead and write MFA policies under security and MFA, and we can kind of restrict which password, which policy to use. So we can say that under the disable push policy, I have made this Okta verify as the optional, as the required one. So anyone who will be fulfilling this policy, or who will be fulfilling this MFA policy, they'll have to use Okta verify only. They cannot. These are optional. They can still go ahead and authenticate via this, but this they have to do it. So that's like you can make it. Uh, Admins can make it a required policy, but if in case this would have also been optional, like I can just go ahead and make it optional. So then it's up to the user, whatever they have configured, they can go ahead and authenticate via one of them. So but if I make something as required, then they'll have to authenticate via that one. So that's pretty much it. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it on the interview side. Like we have covered a lot of questions today with regards to Okta, and I hope you guys would have enjoyed the session. And anything which is not clear, maybe we'll come up with some more videos on the interview part. So yeah, thank you everyone, and have a good one. Take care.